Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Everyday EDC. My name is Tyler and today we are reviewing the PM2. I know this has been reviewed to death, but I want to get this out there just because I have it and I should have reviewed it already. First and foremost, let me say, just like every other Spyderco that I've ever owned, other than my Manix 2, I did not like it when I took it out of the box. I did not like it in hand. I do not like the compression lock. I did not like the compression lock. I will get into that. This is not a negative review. Let me start this off with that. This all has somewhere to go. I took this camping with me this weekend, and I fidgeted with it a lot. You know, it broke in really well as far as action. I mean, the action's so good on it now. It's insane. When I first got it, the action wasn't even good, but it wasn't broken in. The compression lock is a hard one to really get used to just because it is so different. Whoa. It is so different. You have to really train yourself to get used to it. But once you get used to it, it's phenomenal. It's super fidgety, super fun. Like because of the PM2, I think I'm gonna purchase a PM3. It's gonna be for the channel, but I mean, I just want one now. It's just like all other Spydercos, you know. I firmly believe that people who haven't held or given Spyderco a chance, Justin, you need to. And if you want me to fucking send you a knife so that you can play with it for a week, I'll do that. But you need to experience not necessarily just the PM2, but any Spyderco, but the compression lock, give it a chance. That's how we're starting out this review. So you can tell it's going to be a good one. Well, not good one, but it's going to be positive. It's probably going to be a shitty review. I like saying that now. I don't know why. It's just kind of comical to me. All right, so blade stock thickness. Check it back here. Ooh, shit. 130 thousandths. But the behind the edge thickness Ronnie, quiet, is at about 20 thousandths. But what you're gaining with this PM2, even though the behind the edge thickness isn't as thin as I thought it was going to be. Hey, doing a video here, man. Rude. What you're gaining with this, even though the behind the edge thickness doesn't make it seem like it's going to be a laser beam, you have this full flat grind blade, and you have this on every freaking Spyderco that has this leaf shaped blade. It's a full flat grind, so it allows it an awesome slicing path, and it allows it to come down to a very narrow, even though it's not that, you know, that thin behind the edge, it's 20 thousandths, but it allows it to come down to this nice narrow, and it's fantastic. Let's go into the thickness. It's not that thick. It's coming in at 0.45 inches. The overall height, which is usual for Spydercos, it's not the greatest. 1.6 inches. So it's gonna sit a little bit tall in your pocket, and by tall, I'm talking height-wise, from here to here. This is tall. This is long. All right, so it's going to sit, Jesus Christ, it's going to sit a little bit tall in your pocket. I carry it in carpenter pants, so I carry it in that pocket where it's down by like the hammer, you know, loop. And so I don't notice it, but even in my pocket, I don't notice it. It's just another 3.5 inch plus or minus knife. Speaking of, let's go into overall length. Coming in about 8.25 inches long with a blade length of 3.5 inches and a cutting edge of about just under 3.25 inches. That's another thing you're not getting out of the PM2s or the PM3s really, is you're not getting a lot of cutting edge, but honestly, you don't need it with the way these blades are shaped. I'm telling you, the leaf-shaped blade with the full flat grind is just insane. All right, it does have recessed pocket liners, and they're milled out. I don't know if you can see it. You really can't. They have pockets milled out in them. Let's see here. You can kind of see it there. This is a CPM S30V steel, which is a particle steel. They basically take a bunch of pieces to put it together, and by pieces I mean like dust-sized pieces, and that's how they melt it down so that it's a much more well-rounded type. Whereas you have a D2, which is cast from molten and ingot formed, right? So this is going to have, it's not going to be consistent throughout chemistry-wise. There's going to be certain parts that have higher silicon or higher chromium or higher, vanadium, or not in D2, but you know what I mean. Whereas this is going to be very consistent all around, which makes them a little bit more solid performer because you know exactly what you're getting. You're not going to run into, this is a bad example, but you're not going to run into a void in the material because it is all basically particle formed, right? So, and I'll go through those processes in another video, and maybe I'm not explaining it 100% right, so don't overcorrect me on this. You guys get the overall gist. So obviously a Spyderco knife, you got your Spyderco emblem. I forgot what that emblem means. Maybe it's a Golden Colorado thing. Golden Colorado, USA Earth. I'm showing all this from too far away, and then my light source is making it hard for you guys to see things. This is a very ambidextrous and tip up or tip down carry, however you want to carry it. You have mounts here, mounts here, mounts here, mounts here. You have a lanyard hole right here and lanyard tube. Anybody familiar with taking apart a Spyderco knows that that thing's a motherfucker. So if you guys do get a Spyderco and you decide to take it apart, be very wary of this lanyard tube. It'll if I made a video with my Manix 2 changing out the scales, and I was kind of embarrassed. I don't even think I put it up because that thing just rules your freaking life. So we got a T8 pivot screw, and unfortunately, maybe not. Maybe the body screws. Fuck. Give me a second. I'll run out and grab my torch set. I'm never prepared for this. Sorry about that. No, I'm not editing that shit out. I am practicing editing though, so I'm going to try to make these videos a little bit more entertaining. So the body screws are T8. That's good. And the pocket clip screws are definitely a T6. And the pivot screw is definitely a T8. So T8 body screws, T8 pivot screw, T6 pocket clip screws, not a big deal. And then let's go into the overall weight of this guy. This is coming in at, even though you guys cannot see it, there we go, 3.84 ounces. So not large. I mean, it's under the 4 ounce mark. It is not meeting the blade length to weight ratio, but not a huge deal. Let's get into some comparisons. We got the feldspar, obviously coming in at longer than the regular feldspar, but the blade length is coming in at much shorter. And then you have your mini feldspar. Realistically, the mini feldspar and the PM2, to put that into perspective, cutting edge, about the same. Now you're going to say, why the hell would I want to carry this big ass knife when I can carry the mini feldspar? Well, let me show you why. The ergonomics on this, just like the Manix 2, the Manix 2 is a little bit better, are freaking awesome. This is, you're so locked in. You're so locked in here. You can pretty much hold this knife and in any position you want and be locked in. The G10 is grippy enough that, you know, it's perfect in my opinion as far as the ergonomics. The Manix 2 is obviously perfect. This is a notch below the Manix 2. Speaking of, let's get into the Manix 2 comparison here. This knife is a little bit longer than the Manix 2. Cutting edge is gonna be about the same, maybe a little bit longer. You know, the ergonomics on this guy, this feels better. just saying. This feels good. Manix 2 feels great. So if you're looking for ergonomics, maybe the PM2 is not your cup of tea, but don't write it off yet, right? Let's get into the Rat Model 1. A little bit longer with a much longer cutting edge, and then the ProTech Newport. And once again, if you were to compare these cutting edge, the Newport loses to the PM2 by 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in cutting edge, and is obviously a much smaller knife. So once again, I'm saying all this not to knock the PM2, but I'm saying this to say, know what you're getting into. You're not getting a knife that's longer with a much longer cutting edge. That's not what you're getting. You're getting a knife that is ridiculously functional. Functional. Look it up. All right, I'm gonna have to after this. I don't know if that's a fucking word. Sounds like it. Here is the Civivi Dogma, King Civivi, and then we have the Civivi Darus. Once again, great ergonomics on this. I don't know. Is it better? I don't know. I don't know which one's better. They're a little bit different. So, overall thoughts on the PM2. I don't want to review this to death. This has been already reviewed to death. By Metal Complex alone, he has like 50 videos in the PM2 and the different sprint runs and yada, yada, yada. So that's not what I want to get into. Just for those of you that are watching that haven't experienced the Spyderco, or those of you new to the knife world that are just looking to see if this is the knife for you, I forgot to mention, this is on phosphor bronze washers. I did not mention that. The PM2 could very easily be the bane of our existence. And by that I mean, you could totally buy the PM2 and that be your be-all, end-all knife. Or you can get into collecting PM2s because they make so many fucking different ones of them. Different scales, different blade materials, It's just that they got these copper ones out there that are just heavier than shit now. It's like, there's so many versions of this knife. This is, once again, those of you new to the knife world, the reason I bought this knife, I didn't even want this knife to get go. Everybody compares things to this. Why? It's just like the Rat Model 1. The Rat Model 1 is such a benchmark knife for the budget world that it set the standard so fucking high. The PM2 set the standard so high for the $120 to $140 price range for this G10. You got the S30V steel. I mean, so you got great edge retention, relatively corrosion resistant. It's not awful to sharpen, So the compression lock, those of you that aren't familiar with it, as you can see, let's see if you guys got a good, so as you open it up, it's kind of like a liner lock, but reversed. It locks it in from the back side rather than the front. And okay, so not that much different. Oh my God, it is so different to manipulate. Once you get the hang of it, you realize that the compression lock is probably one of the easiest, if not the easiest, to manipulate once you get the hang of it, as far as fidget factor goes. That being said, you're not going to be used to it when you first get it if you've never had one, and it's different. So give it a chance. I hated it in my hands the first time I had this knife. I used it for a fucking weekend, and I want to buy the PM3, the PM3. I want to buy a different variant of this. Like it just, there's something about it that makes you want to collect it. It's insane. So this as a tool, as in all Spydercos, they're not going for aesthetics. We here are going for function, right? The function factor. Coin that phrase. The function factor of this knife is a 10. Truly is. I mean, this thing's amazing. For all your medium EDC tasks, it's just great. Now, does this have the deep carry pocket clip on it? No. But this is the swoop that people are talking about. This is the one that they prefer, if you watch my other videos, over this, like, drastic situation here. You can't really see it. Let me close this so I don't hurt myself. So these two, as you can see, this one has this this one has a shroop. Yeah, that's the difference, right? People complain about this. Nobody really complains about this, but the generic Spyderco clips, people kind of complain about, so they get the MXG deep carry pocket clips. Whatever. I had one on my Man X2, and I got rid of it. I did not actually like the one that I particularly got. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means I didn't like that one. So function factor is a 10. Fidget factor is a frickin' 10. Ergonomics is a 9.5. The only one right now that I know of that beats it is the Manix 2 when you're talking about 3.5-inch knives. I'm going to try to stop comparing ergonomics of the 3.5-inch knives and above to the smaller knives, because it's just an unfair comparison. With the smaller knife, you're not getting, nearly the room to really get the handle length. These aren't meant to do the same exact tasks as these, in my opinion. Now, can they? For sure. But I can cut down fucking boxes all day with this guy. I mean, you're locked in. It's going to slice through everything. It's going to be great with the S30V. Yeah, it might chip because it's not as, that's why they made the S35, so it doesn't chip, it rolls more. All that being said, it's a great steel. When it first came out, probably was considered a super steel. Back when it first came out, was a steel that was only developed for knives. It wasn't already like a D2 steel or an M4 or anything like that. And it's just great. The action on it for being on a phosphor bronze washer is fantastic. As you can see, as I've showed you on several occasions, you can reverse flick it, you can thumb flick it, you can compression lock flip it, you can even do something like it, just by holding the little Spidey hole. And FYI, those of you who haven't experienced the Spidey hole, or like the Griptilian, the hole that they allow that there, experience it. It'll change your world and make you jealous, and probably not like flipper tabs as much. Whew, that was a lot. The lanyard tube. If you have one bad thing about the PM2, other than the awkward carry profile, the overall length of the handle versus the length of the blade, the lanyard tube. This thing sucks. I know why they do it. It's just another spacer, so they don't have to put another spacer there, and it's just kind of standard with Spydercos. But taking this apart, the fit on this is insanely tight. You will probably either break your lanyard tube or your scales if you try to do anything forceful with it. It is that tight. FYI, when I put my Manix 2 scales on, I literally put a cloth over my scales and took a hammer and kind of beat around there. And if you can see, let's see if you guys can tell. You really can't. But the lanyard tube isn't sitting on my Manix 2 perfectly. It actually is slightly angled, and there's nothing I can do about that now. It's probably ruined, and eventually when I go to replace it, I gotta replace it. It's just the nature of the beast. But lanyard tube sucks. Carry profile kind of sucks. Everything else about this knife, insanely amazing. And I know that I'm reviewing a knife that again has already been reviewed to death. It's kind of old news. It's not the latest and greatest thing by Spyderco. You got the Spyderco Shamans, you got the Spyderco Chaparrals, you got the Manixes, the Para 3s, you name it. They came out with so much this year. But guys, the PM2 is a benchmark for our community. Pay your respects to this knife, because this paved the way for a lot of things. And it's just, it's a phenomenal knife. It's a phenomenal tool. And once you grow on the aesthetics of these knives, you actually come to appreciate them. Not that they look cooler than, say, my Defcon Kabuto. That knife looks badass, and it's still my favorite knife as like a trophy knife. Obviously this knife looks way cooler than the PM2. Just saying. That being said, it is, in my opinion, also not as functional. It's super fidgety. It's got this nice titanium scales with the frame lock. Awesome action on these bearings. Great cutting edge of the knife, or great cutting edge of the blade. But I can get more done faster with this PM2 than I can with this. It's just, if I'm going to go into a hard usage situation, I'm not grabbing my Defcon. I'm actually not grabbing it hardly at all. It's, like I said, it's my trophy knife right now. But it's the aesthetics are ugly on Spydercos. It's just the nature of what they do. They grow on you, though. Especially when you come to appreciate things that you just don't like change. You don't like anything different. That's why we don't like the compression lock until you get it in your hands and you try it. And it's just, I know I'm fumbling and I'm kind of floundering for words. I guess that's what happens when you try to review something that is such an icon. And this knife deserves the iconic view that it gets. Like it, love it, or hate it, it doesn't matter. Respect where this thing came from and what it's done for our community as far as really set the bar. And those of you who haven't experienced a Spyderco, please let me know. We will figure out a way to get one in your hands for a couple days or something. Even if I can find you a cheap Tenacious or something like that. Guys, these things are awesome. And I know it's a polarizing tool, but give it a shot. That's all I gotta say, because I hated this thing out of the box. I truly did. And carrying it just for 5 days, other than a review knife, oh my goodness, I am in love with this thing. So yeah, that is the Spyderco PM2, guys. Those of you who have been around the community for years and years and years, and you happen upon this video, don't judge the review. Judge it, actually. Go ahead, leave your comments. That'd be fun. Not coming from a confrontational standpoint. I just think anything's fun with that. Other than that, this is all I got for you guys. This is all I got for your face balls, as OCD for EDC would say. I would like to do a metal complex sign off. I was going to try to do that, but I forgot how to do it. But I can do something. Balls! Comment below on that reference, because that dude's awesome, by the way. Tell him to make a fucking video. He's not made a video in like 4 months. COVID hit and he's really busy. I was talking to him on Instagram. Name drop. But yeah, so all right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay sharp. If you like what you're watching and all that shit, hit the subscribe button. You know, let's keep me going if you're interested in what I do. You know, the only thing that really keeps me going is getting people to watch and appreciate and find the information I'm putting out useful or entertaining. And yeah, Spyderco PM2. Once again, thank you so much, Justin. This is fantastic. Love you guys. Stay safe, stay sharp. Have a great day. Wear your fucking masks.